if you want to stand out, especially as a smaller brand, you have to take risks presenting different solutions. We just took a different approach. There is no one-size-fits-all content strategy. Most companies practice the same playbook. You shouldn't do that, right? But at the same time, you shouldn't play it safe. You will have diminishing returns moving forward. For us, a strategy has 8 dimensions. A SaaS company should do different things and should map different content types and formats to its strategy based on the stage it belongs to. So different things apply to companies in different stages. We are talking about a messy, fragmented, certainly non-linear journey. Perception is as equal, if not more important than reality nowadays. And perception is enough to wipe down an industry. As much as we hate it, many marketing departments can't imagine life without SEO. Forgive me for what I'm going to say, but AI is...
1, 2, 3, 4.
Want to attract and convert more leads? Want to learn how digital PR, branding, and SEO can establish and build your brand identity? Welcome to the Market Movers Building Brands and Links with Linkifi podcast. We answer these questions and help you ramp up your brand visibility and credibility. Let's cut through the noise and make your business the talk of the town. We're your hosts, Nick and Chris. Let's get this show on the road.
Today, I am thrilled to have my good friend, George Chasiotis, the founder of Minuttia, a leading growth agency for SaaS companies. George has worked with top names in SaaS and built a thriving newsletter on B2B growth. Welcome to the podcast, George.
Nice to be here, Chris. Thank you very much.
It's good to have you. Okay, why don't you start by just telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got into SaaS content marketing?
Yeah, so the short version is as I was a freelancer, I got involved with a SaaS company early on, and then another one, and then at some point I decided to start the agency, which was around Q1 2020. Since I had experience with a couple of SaaS companies, I thought I may as well target this industry, right? And fast forward 5 years now, almost 5 years in the game. I still run Minuttia. Also launched Growth Waves in September of 2023, almost a year now. It's grown to around 5,000 subscribers. Actually, we are very meticulous at cleaning up inactive, so it's less than that now. And we're getting good traction there, and started opening a new revenue stream, which is great. And also a couple of other side projects, but yeah, the agency is still there. Growth is now here.
Yeah, well, I mean, Growth Waves, I'm on the list, so don't delete me off that. It's a fantastic newsletter for anyone that wants to check it out. And me and George, we met in Cyprus a few years ago at a conference. So I've been following him for a while. I think we've been keeping in touch. So yeah, it's good to hear that things are going well. So why don't we start this podcast then by talking to me about some of the common mistakes that you see SaaS companies making when it comes to content and SEO?
The problem with SaaS starts from the fact that, in most cases, for most categories, you compete against big VCs and the investments they made on the companies they invested in. And this makes things difficult, especially for challengers or smaller companies that want to find their way in the top of the search results, if we are talking about organic search as a channel. Plus, it's a mature in general channel. It has the good thing about it is that the journey is somehow clear. So everyone knows pretty much what the keywords are and what keywords have commercial search intent, what keywords have informational search intent and whatnot. But it's a mature channel, competitors that have a lot of money and resources to put into that effort. And so that makes it difficult for, young startups to find their way through the top of the search results. I would say that the main mistake I see nowadays, especially as we see this shift on search towards more experience-led content and, content that's aligned with the search intent, but also somehow unique. And I'm not talking just about information gain, but really unique. So the main mistake is that most companies practice the same playbook and they decide to play it safe instead of, taking risks when it makes sense. Just to put this in perspective, through an example, we have a project, not SaaS company, at least for now, And one of the keywords we targeted was best habit tracker apps, which, by the way, is a keyword that, a SaaS company would also target, right? And the traditional playbook, or the old, playbook, let's call it that way, would dictate, go on, use a content optimization tool and come up with the solutions that the tool will spit out for you, create a hyper listicle of 24 plus 1 best habit tracker apps, create a content piece based on that with the screenshot of every solution that you list, and call it a day, right? Maybe build some links on top of it and so on. What we did was different. So we had one member of our team actually use not 24 plus 1, but just 4 habit tracker apps for 1 month, okay? Note down her experience, her thoughts, what's good about each app, what's not so good, and write a piece based on that, okay? No links, no nothing, no active promotion. We just published the page. And I think it ranks, somewhere in the top 10, 15, which for a new website like us, ranking among results from Forbes and Zapier and whatnot is a great accomplishment. Now imagine if you do that with an already established domain that has a good authority, that has a brand outside of the website, and so on. You would most likely get an even better result, right? But the problem is, again, that most SaaS companies decide to not take that route. Now, to be clear, that's not, easy to do in every single piece of content that you produce and you put out there. And in fact, you shouldn't do that, right? But at the same time, you shouldn't play it safe and just try to recycle what's out there and just add a bit of information game in the form of an FAQ section or anything of that sort on top of it, and just hope that this will perform well. It may still perform well. I guess the incentive is still there to a certain extent. That's why companies keep doing it and practicing the old playbook. But I would expect that, you will have diminishing returns moving forward, especially with the introduction of search features like AI overviews, or the introduction of thread-like websites like Reddit and so on and so forth in search.
Essentially, the authoritative SaaS sites, they're all playing from the same old playbook. They're producing pieces of content that matches SERP intent based on competitor research. They're running it through a tool like Surfer SEO, publishing the content. The established sites are possibly resting on their laurels of their existing authority and either maintaining their rankings or bumping between, let's say, the top few spots in Google. And that means then essentially newer, less authoritative SaaS sites are not going to be able to compete with those sites by playing by the exact same playbook. And then on the reverse side of that actually potentially means that sites that are, let's say, sitting in spot 4, spot 5, if they did take a risk and go outside of what's been done, it's an opportunity for them to jump to, top spot just by doing something different to what's being done repeatedly by everyone else.
Yeah, especially if you're small, you should in fact take risks, right? You can't afford to just blend in and try to do what everyone else is doing, because as you put it, like the big websites and the category leaders, by the way, we work with category leaders and it's great. Like almost everything you do works well, and it makes you wonder, like, am I really that good, or is it just the website and the brand behind the website? But seriously now, if you want to stand out, especially as a smaller brand, you have to take risks. And by the way, when I say risks, in the example I shared, we are still aligned with the searcher's intent, right? We still did a listicle presenting different solutions. We just took a different approach. And by the way, it's not just us saying that, this is where things are heading towards. You can see it with the introduction of YouTube videos like the one we published that, essentially talk about, experience, having first-hand experience. Like I tried X and here's what happened, right? Or taking a contrarian approach, right?
Okay, so you've emphasized building content strategies without guesswork. Could you explain your process for creating these adaptive content strategies for SaaS companies?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the problem with content strategy is, in most cases, is treated as in a similar way as, producing a piece of content. Like we try to see what everyone else is doing, and, we do pretty much the same. We follow this cookie cutter approach. But the reality is there is no one-size-fits-all content strategy, right? And so what we do at Minuttia, we also had a webinar about it where we presented for the first time all 8 dimensions, which don't ask me to list from the top of my mind. But so what we do is that we say, okay, what are the content types and formats for SaaS companies? Let's start from there. So we have product-focused content, we have SEO content, let's call it that way, content that's created for a search audience. We have original content like surveys, data studies, narratives, and so on. And then we have multimedia content. Okay, that's great. We list them out. And then what we do is that we try to think about what we call dimensions. And, for us, a strategy has 8 dimensions. These dimensions are essentially, I will give an example, the stage that a company is at, right? Mm-hmm. And if we say that there are usually, roughly speaking, 3 stages, early stage, product market fit, and growth stage, then the assumption is that a SaaS company should do different things and should map different content types and formats to its strategy based on the stage it belongs to, right? Mm-hmm. Well, most companies don't get that. Even though, for us it's common sense and this is how it should be done. Most companies tend to do things just because, competition is doing it and whatnot. Just, to illustrate this as an example, let's say you are an early stage company. What we say is that unless you have some benefit of sorts, for example, you have a big pre-seed investment, or your founder, used to be in organic search in some capacity. What we say is in early stages, you shouldn't invest in SEO. Okay. But what companies do is that they will spin out these alternative pages and comparison guides, presenting themselves as an alternative and comparing themselves against, the category leaders in this category, in this space and whatnot. And we say that's wrong. Why? Because you are at an early stage. SEO, in most cases, is not an instant gratification channel. Mm-hmm. It takes a while to show up. And by the time it does, you may not be alive as a company, or you may pivot, right? And so that's why after you get it to a product market fit, what, the use cases are, what the product does and what are your competitors, so you can present yourself as an alternative, right? And so that's just a small example illustrating how companies get content strategy so wrong and why there shouldn't be a one-size-fits-all, and you should develop and build your content strategy based on, different dimensions. By the way, you can check the webinar we did with Reforge, people who are listening to this. I'm going through everything in detail there, and you can check all these dimensions and try to see and understand what should we be doing based on our stage, our growth motion, our budget, and so on and so forth.
Okay, that's really interesting. So a new SaaS company, or often new SaaS companies, will look at the competition, see the competitors, and they'll just build a content strategy around that, rather than taking into account those very unique dimensional factors to them, their business, where they're at. Maybe they don't have a full understanding of their own product yet. I think that's really interesting. So taking all that into account, where do you recommend a new SaaS company start with content?
If we are talking about, day zero and what they should be doing, I should have our board in front of me where we list everything. But I think that they should not, as I mentioned, they should not be doing from an SEO standpoint, they should not be doing almost anything, right? Right. From a product focused standpoint, they should be doing case studies, because these case studies can illustrate the value of the product and capture as much of the visits they have as possible. They should be doing certainly original content, narratives, first-person narratives, like the founders to go out there and tell the story and whatnot, third-person narratives, and so on. And then also multimedia, things that can allow them to, expand their network, like podcasts, interviewing other people, and so on, right? So there are things to do. You just have to be very careful about, the selection of these tools. Just because of the reasons I mentioned. And by the way, that's not something that applies just to early stage companies. Example for later stage companies, like growth stage, right? Mm-hmm. When you're at a growth stage, chances are, let's say you're a public company, chances are, there is way more scrutiny in everything you do. So for example, let's say, or not for example, but you are at a later stage, you have scrutiny, you can't say, things that you would say where you are at an early stage. So then, at that stage, you shouldn't, publish first-person narratives talking about your journey and whatnot, because, everything you say will be scrutinized, highly scrutinized, and, maybe there are other consequences like legal and whatnot. So you have to be very careful, right? So different things apply to companies in different stages. And that's just one of the dimensions, right? Because we have other like budget, like what is your growth motion, what life cycle stages you are targeting, and so on.
Okay. Hence the adaptability of one's content strategy. Okay. So what role does SEO play then in scaling a SaaS company, especially when competing in highly saturated markets?
It plays a very important role. It is part of the journey, first of all, right? Mm-hmm. That's why you see terms like, Asana alternatives, or Asana VS Monday comparisons, or best project management software or best project management tools, right? You see them convert so well. And it's not just these terms. We see that how to, like what we call job to be done terms, convert in many cases, especially if you give the answer right away and the way for the person to get that job done, convert really well. For example, how to track referrals, right? And imagine if you are a referral tracking like software that offers this ability to people, or for the context of this piece of content, you build a template and you give it away in exchange of emails, right? And so you collect leads there to feed your salespeople. So it's a part of the journey. Now, having that said, it's part of a messed up, non-linear, highly fragmented journey, right? Because this visual representation of the funnel, and that people will start from here and will end up there after taking some steps, and I will funnel them, through each step, and that's not applicable nowadays, especially for SaaS companies, right? Because again, we are talking about a messy, fragmented, certainly non-linear journey, and SEO is a big part of it, but it's just a part of it. It's not, the end all and be all. And by the way, all of us would like SEO to be, or things to be as simple as, I just read an alternative piece of content and I just converted. And, that happens, right? But it's not, the assumption should be that, we create content for a search audience to help meet our potential customers where they are in this messy, non-linear, fragmented journey. We don't expect that, there is no expectation that this is all we do and you can't find our brand anywhere else, right? Because if that's the only thing you do, you definitely set yourself up for success. So a part of the journey for sure, but a part of the journey, nothing more than that.
Okay. You work with a number of high profile brands. You've been through the mill with these Google updates, the introduction of AI overviews. I'm interested from your perspective from working with clients, how has the landscape changed over the past, let's say 12 to 18 months? Are SaaS companies, have they been hit? Are they seeing their SEO strategies fail them? Have you seen companies, as you just discussed, distribute their content outside of just SEO and not relying it solely as a conversion channel? What are you seeing and where do you see it going?
Oh man, you're trying to trigger a rant now. Where do I start? So
feel free to rant.
So the thing is that SEO got a very bad rep last year, right? It almost got cancelled to an extent that many professionals changed their title from SEO to organic growth, from link building to digital PR. These rebrands to help with the cancelling that was happening online for SEO. But seriously now, it got a bad rep. And also, and I can, to a certain extent, I can understand that after the announcement back in May in the I.O. event by Google of SG, what they called back then SG, now they call it AI overviews, there has been an echo chamber and a lot of fear mongering amongst SEOs and executives, right? Marketing executives. And why that's important is because when a marketing exec from a company that's very high profile, declares SEO dead and talks about the death of SEO, and other people reinforce that message and say that, this is it. This affects you on the ground more than you can imagine, because this gives a signal to other marketing executives who follow that person that, if she or he says that, man, like we shouldn't invest in SEO. And so from a perception standpoint, SEO got a very big hit starting last year. And perception is as equal, if not more important than reality nowadays. And perception enough and a perception hit is enough to like wipe down an industry, right? So there's definitely has been, a perception hit for SEO. And on a very practical level, there has been a change, right? We see websites like Reddit and Quora getting more prominent spots in search. We see websites that, you wouldn't expect to, like, you wouldn't consider them as your competitors, especially for SaaS companies, to get a place among the top search results, for example, Forbes, right? And of course, you get AI overviews, right? Now, the thing is that I see, especially in Q3 of this year and, Q4, a comeback somehow of SEO. The main reason is the incentive is still there. So, SEO still works as a channel, still brings results. And at the same time, it's such a big channel that I think many marketing departments can't imagine life without SEO. As much as we hate it and we have this, love-hate relationship with Google and whatnot, and we try to understand what's behind the curtain all these years, I think that it's such a prominent channel, not just for SaaS, but in general, it's difficult to imagine life without it, right? The channel changes. The SEO industry definitely got a hit starting last year, but I think that since the incentive is still there, companies will keep investing in SEO. But what I can say is that if a company makes an investment in SEO, they should certainly, and they should, right? Especially for SaaS, they should think about other channels as well, right? Because remember, the game nowadays is not just like we have a website and we publish content. You're treated as a brand, as an entity, and it's not just about like what kind of content you produce and what kind of links you build, right? So there is space for SEO. And it certainly changes, as we also discussed at the beginning of this conversation. The incentive is still there, so brands and marketing departments will keep investing in it, at least, for the short term.
Yeah, I imagine it's something that many of the established SaaS brands, it would be hard for them to ignore as well. Even if they've taken a hit in traffic, it's still going to be a massive channel for them. So it needs to be a part of a holistic strategy. But yeah, it would make no sense for them to declare SEO dead.
Can I say one last thing here? It's also something that we shouldn't underestimate. And if there are in-house people listening to this, forgive me for what I'm going to say, but most companies, most content marketers in-house, working in-house, and agencies for that matter, are average, to say the least, okay? And unfortunately, search ended up being a channel that rewards average. You get a piece of content that's somehow okay, you build some links, and you will get like a good enough result to get you some clicks, right? Mm-hmm. Imagine publishing average content on a platform with such an instant feedback loop like LinkedIn. Nothing will happen there, and you will know immediately whether or not your content resonates with people, which is not the same with Google, right? On top of that, add the fact that many people either don't know how to do other things and they feel more comfortable with text-based content that goes to the blog in most cases. And at the same time, they don't want to get out of their comfort zone and risk because they don't want to, lose their jobs. So it's a complicated topic, why we keep practicing the same playbook and why search is so difficult to sort of stop being such an important part of the journey for SaaS companies and other companies. But yes, I hope that slowly things will change, and even in search we will start seeing more interesting things and more risk and more uniqueness in content.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I think Minuttia is at least to me, known to publish quality content. So I'm interested just to ask about, has your agency adopted AI as part of its publication and production workflow? And if so, in what ways? And what are you doing to differentiate your content so much against the competition?
So we have our AI policy published on our website. We don't use AI for content creation. We use AI as part of the content briefing process, for example, for information gain and whatnot. Andonis, our SEO lead who you had on the pod, built some nice GPTs there. And we embrace AI in general. For example, I mentioned earlier our content strategy and how we think about it. We have a GPT that guides companies through the process of building their strategy, right? So AI is, either we like it or not, part of what we do, right? But I would say that for reasons that go beyond, the practical value of AI and even, profit margins as a business and so on, we choose not to use AI for content creation, but we are experimenting with AI. We are using it, in different processes. In terms of content and trying to push the envelope there, very often we go to our clients, with suggestions on like things we could do, for example, for original content and whatnot. The problem is that, and by the way, all these things can be explained as part of like our content strategy, because every piece of content has, a certain objective that it can help you meet. So you can't expect, for example, that you will publish a first person narrative or a data study and you will generate trials or pipeline from that. But we try to push towards this direction. We get pushback from our clients because, how can we justify that? And plus I don't want to risk I don't want to pay for something like this and then have to report on my CMO at the end of the quarter for something that doesn't generate leads. And I understand that. Sometimes we get the leeway to do some more creative stuff, let's say, and we keep pushing, right? Yeah.
So as we approach the end of this episode then, George, what in your opinion differentiates, I think you've basically covered this, but what differentiates the top performing SaaS companies in content marketing from those that struggle?
So the example I will give is from a company that everyone knows in the SaaS, in the SEO industry, which is SEMrush. And I would urge people to go and check the LinkedIn page of SEMrush. Go check what they do there, right? And you could argue that, but they are a public company and they have, unlimited resources and whatnot. Go check what they do and tell me if what they do requires a huge investment or anything like that. It doesn't. They are just very close to their audience and understand, what their audience thinks at any time and what the discussions are and whatnot. And they try to approach that either through in-depth content and give value and so on, or, through humorous content that triggers different emotions on behalf of their audience and so on. I think, and this is just one example, right? I can list so many companies like what Hockey Stack did with the flow and so many other examples, right? I think that now it's not the time to play it safe. SaaS is highly commoditized. In most categories, there is a category leader and, followers and challengers and whatnot. So I think that now it's the time to take risks and care about trials and pipeline and all these things. These things are important, yes, but also take risks, try to do things differently and learn from industries outside of SaaS. For example, if we're talking about SaaS companies, go study D2C, go study consumer packaged goods and other industries, see what they do there and try to model and bring some of these things to B2B SaaS.
And take a risk and make a purchase of a SEO based content site like SEMrush has just done. Have you seen on? That's
right. I mean, they've done, we did a case study, by the way, on their acquisitions strategy, which we published on Growth Waves. Shameless plug, but people, if you want some of the best content on B2B that you will not see anywhere else, go to Growth Waves and become a pro member so you can access this kind of content. And so, their acquisition playbook tells us something, right? And it's not just them, by the way. MailChimp acquired Courier, the magazine. Paddle acquired Profitwell, which had a media arm, and SEMrush, which used to, their acquisitions fall usually under two categories, either tech or media. And with the latest acquisition they did for Exploding Topics, it's covering both, because Exploding Topics had both the asset, the tech and the media aspect of it with a huge newsletter list and the organic traffic that they bring in, right?
It could be, yeah. Okay, George, as we approach the end then, for our audience, anybody out there listening that wants to get into growth, SaaS growth, looking to start their own agency, looking to build an agency such as yours, where would you suggest they start? And any advice for these would-be entrepreneurs looking to get involved in your industry?
If they want to build an agency, I would advise against building an agency,
Okay.
of course. Go get a job at a good company and, stay there for as long as you can. Building an agency is just, a battle day after day. So I would have
We should have recorded our conversation before the podcast, and that could have been a bonus listen.
yeah, definitely advise against it. But seriously now, I would suggest if you want to connect with me personally, the best thing to do is, find me on LinkedIn. That's where I publish content, and you can also find all the other things that I'm doing through there. Go sign up for Growth Waves. We share 2 emails per month, and in my opinion, the content is great, and like also considering the feedback we get. And for agency services, minuttia.com, is the website. Yeah.
Anything outside of SaaS in the works for future plans?
So we did this website, which routinebase.com, because outside of SaaS and running Minuttia and Growth Waves, I'm very much into like daily routines and running and swimming and cycling and all this crazy stuff. And so we did a website with a friend detailing daily routines of successful people. For example, Mark Wahlberg, Taylor Swift, David Goggins, all the way to very niche superstars, right? Ultramarathon runners and whatnot. And also doing experience-led content by interviewing people. And so we have this sort of passion project on the side. Yeah.
That's good stuff. Actually, last thing before we go, can you give me some advice on habit building then? I just recently, for about 4 months now, I've been a member of the 5 a.m. club. So my wife got a new job. So I'm up at 5 a.m, gym at 6 a.m. till 7. I feel the best that I do for the day from about 7 till 9. And then I crash after lunch. But it's been fun. So any habit-based tips?
So I will distill it in, few words as I can. The way it works for me is this. First, I, set the vision for my life. My vision is I want to be happier, healthier, wealthier, wiser, while having fun and helping others. And then I take each of these elements, for example, let's take healthier, and try to find things that actually help me in that direction, be healthier, right? And then once I do that, I set a goal for the year, right? For example, I want to swim 100 times this year, which in fact was my goal for the year, and I'm very close to hitting it. And then I just have a Google Sheet and I track these things daily.
Okay.
That's it.
That's awesome. Of course, you've got a Google Sheet. SaaS guy tracking his habits in a Google Sheet. Okay, George, thank you so much for being a guest on our podcast, and hopefully I'll see you in person soon. Thank you for being here.
It was nice seeing you, Chris.
3, 2, 1,
And that wraps up this episode of Market Movers, Building Brands and Links with Linkify. Big thanks to our parent company, Linkifi, the wizards behind turning ambitious businesses into standout brands. Hit up our website at linkify.io and take the first steps towards brand greatness. Big shout out to Fame for making this podcast possible. Thanks for listening, folks. Stick around for more insights in our next episode. Catch you later.